Hey guys, it's Bailey. Welcome back to the channel and thank you so much for tuning in to what is going to be a review of a new foundation from CoverGirl. You might have seen this if you've been perusing drugstore shelves yourself. I personally came across this when I was looking around a Walgreens saying I was in there for allergy medicine, but let's get real. There's always a makeup agenda when I walk into a drugstore, right? Anyone? So I came across this new Vitalist Healthy Elixir. Has foundation with vitamins and broad spectrum SPF. It says the vitamins are E, B3, and B5. And the description on the back says it's a lightweight, full coverage makeup. This formula hydrates and includes a complex of SPF 20, vitamins, and an antioxidant. It also says it's oil-free, and in case you don't know, I have combo skin, so it tends to be what I look for in my foundations. So in this video, I'm going to do a demo, give you some before and after pictures of like a full day's worth of wear, and then obviously talk you through my thoughts and whether or not I think this is a good foundation for me or maybe for other people. Before I do though, if you are new to the channel, thank you so much for tuning in. If you haven't yet, please hit the subscribe video below to join the Bailey Bunch so you never miss a video. Let's go ahead and dive in. So this foundation retails for around 11 bucks depending on where you find it and what kind of deals they have going on. The nice thing about drugstore foundations is even though 10 bucks might seem a little steep, although in the scheme of things it's pretty regular. I feel like the drugstore has been inching up there, so 10 bucks right now doesn't actually seem that bad, but always remember that you can hunt for product coupons and store deals and things like that to get this a little, if not well below that $11 price tag. I got the shade 725 because there was actually a tester in the store, which I was super happy to see. I think the tester was shade 710, and when I put it on the back of my hand and I spread it out, it looked too light. So I grabbed 725 because the shade just below this was a little too pink, and I tend to have neutral undertones, so I always skew more yellow leaning because I prefer, I guess, my skin. I personally think my skin, while it's neutral, tends to lean more towards yellow rather than pink undertones. Just a personal preference, but come to find out it didn't really matter because once I left the store, got home, I looked at the back of my hand and saw that blended in perfectly with my skin because it is oxidized. So that is something to keep in mind. Yes, I did apply this to my skin and it is a relatively good match, but I think if I were to like clear my hair away, you can see there's definitely a difference in tone between my face and neck and chest, and you know, it could be a little bit more of a flawless blend. I think if I had to do it over again, I would have gone with that 710 shade. There are 14 total shades in this foundation range, so I think it's relatively small. It's a little bit lacking. I think a lot of people might have to resort to mixing tones if they find this is the right formula for them. But I have to say, spoiler alert, I think it's a pretty good foundation, and for some people it might be worth it to do that mixing. So when I first applied this, I didn't have high hopes. I was applying it with a somewhat fluffy foundation brush like this. This is from BH Cosmetics. It was from a set quite a long time ago. I don't even know if they have it, but you get the idea. It's with a pretty densely packed and yet still somewhat fluffy foundation brush. And I found that it did a lot of moving around on the face, but not a lot of blending into the face. So I recommend using something a little bit more densely packed, like a more tightly packed kabuki, or even a sponge to kind of pounce and pat that into the skin to get a more flawless effect, because something that's a little bit fluffier like this is just going to move the product around, and I found it was just a little hard to get everything blended without getting those streaks. At first it seemed like it was giving off patchy coverage, and as I would move it around I'd get full coverage in some places and then patchier coverage elsewhere, so I was like, I don't get it. Is it a light coverage? Is it a full coverage? Because on the back it says lightweight full coverage. You get the point. But once I nailed the technique, I was really impressed with the coverage. All in all, I would say it's a medium full coverage. It's not completely full because it doesn't totally cover more severe discoloration. Like if you have under eye, like darker under eyes, or more severe hyperpigmentation, you are gonna either have to go in with a stronger or a more full coverage concealer or color correct beforehand to completely cover something like that up. But I will say it's relatively full because you can see in the before and after how well it covered the redness around the breakouts I have, especially around my forehead. They were I mean, I just washed my face, and so that tends to make them look more red and severe than they might otherwise, but I was pretty impressed when after that before, and then looking at how well it covered, it did some pretty decent color correction without any help from an actual color corrector or a concealer on top of it. And I found to help it do that, if I took just a little bit, if I took the excess from the back of my hand on my finger and just pat it into those places, it was super easy to build up to that full coverage. I don't recommend doing that around the rest of my face. Like I tried pouncing it onto the tops of my cheekbones cheekbones here to kind of cover up any hyperpigmentation I have, and it ended up looking kind of like a cakey mess, so I don't really recommend doing that all over the face, but for spot concealing, I was pretty impressed with how well it did. Once all was said and done, my full face of makeup was applied. I didn't think it dried to a powder finish, but not so much that it looked cakey or powdery. It just had a really nice, almost airbrushed look to the face, and then I went on to wear it for the rest of the day. From there, like I have mentioned so many times in this video and videos before this one, it's allergy season, folks, so I know I'm gonna put some wear and tear around my nose area. You can even see it now. I've had this on for 8 hours today, and so I have some redness around my nose. A lot of it gets worn off at the tip of my nose as I'm blowing my nose and rubbing and yada yada. You get the picture. I've kind of come to expect that from a foundation. I don't, although there are some that really stand the test of time that are higher end foundations, I don't necessarily expect that from every foundation. Especially when at the end of the day, that's really the only place where I've noticed that wear and tear. I tend to cut it some slack. So you'll see at the end of the day, at the after, there is some wear around my nose area. There is a little bit of excess shine around my forehead, and then I will say that I had a breakout on one side of my face that has come back, and you can see the redness there. That is no fault of the foundation. That is because I'm a picker, so can't pin that on the foundation. That is entirely my bad. I think it would have lasted perfectly fine throughout the day if I just could keep my hands away from it. And then I was really impressed to find that around my cheek area, which I don't tend to have too, as with combo skin, it is down the center of my face, and then occasionally I have breakouts around my hairline and jaw, but I don't get too worried about my cheeks unless a foundation will just suck up and eat my blush and contour, and I was really impressed with at the end of the day. I feel like it still looked exactly as flawless and airbrushed as it did at the beginning. Blush was still there, contour was still there in one piece. Very, very impressed. And it did it all without building up serious excess shine, so I was pretty impressed. In experimenting with what can help extend the longevity of my face overall, I have found that setting with a loose powder, I mean, this is not new news, but it does play well with like an overall finishing or setting powder. The one that I've been using lately is the Lancome Absolute powder. This I just use really generally all over my face as a setting powder, even in my under eye area, and I just found that this particular foundation responded really well to that and lasted that much better throughout the day. That's actually what I'm wearing over top of it now to help it last as it has in this state for the 8 hours that it's been on. So just a little tip, if you got this foundation and you find it's just wearing away in specific areas of your face, try setting it with the loose powder that you love or just the general setting powder that you love to see if that will fix it before giving up on it altogether, because I was just so impressed with the way it wore around the rest of my face. So that's pretty much it from me. Overall, 2 thumbs up. Really impressed to find a drugstore foundation that works for my combo skin, actually lasts all day, and gives a really beautiful, flawless, but natural looking finish. Coming from someone with combo skin, I think it'll work for those with combo skin. If you have oily skin, I think it'll be beautiful as well, but you just might want to take that extra precaution up front of setting your face all over to help it last throughout the day. And I wouldn't say it's terribly drying. Like I said, it dried to a powdery finish, but not so much that it looked cakey or cling to dry patches anywhere. The one thing you got to be careful of though is that shade range. Like I said, I'm not sure this is the right match for me, but I love the finish anyway, so I think I'm going to end up buying that 710 shade or something around it to help mix with this, just to make sure that when I do wear this, it matches, you know, like the rest of my body, you know, as we want with our foundations. And that's it from me, guys. I'd love to hear what you think of this. If you tried it, if you're wanting to try it, let me know in the comments below. Besides that, thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye, guys.